The unrepentant, those who refuse to change. There are moments when helping someone feels like the most natural, compassionate thing to do. But Scripture reminds us that not every act of help is holy. Some people are not stuck. They are committed to staying exactly where they are. The Bible calls this the unrepentant. Those who hear truth, receive grace, experience mercy, and still choose to return to the same destructive patterns. Proverbs says it plainly, "As a dog returns to its vomit, so a fool repeats foolishness." It is a graphic image, but it reveals a spiritual reality. Some people are not looking for deliverance. They are looking for comfort in the very place that keeps them bound. When we continuously rescue someone who refuses to change, we are not being their lifeline. We might be interrupting the very lesson God is trying to teach them. There is a difference between weakness and rebellion. Weakness needs support. Rebellion needs boundaries. And sometimes the most loving thing you can do is step back and allow consequences to do what comfort never could. This does not mean rejecting people. It means refusing to stand in God's way. If someone has no desire to turn from destructive choices, your constant help becomes a cushion for their disobedience. And eventually, the weight of carrying them begins to drown you. The manipulative. Those who twist compassion into control. Some people do not seek help for healing. They seek help for control. These are the manipulators, the ones who know exactly how to pull on your heart, your guilt, and even your faith to keep you tied to their needs. They are not always loud or abusive. Sometimes they appear humble, broken, or spiritually intense. But behind their requests is a pattern. Your kindness becomes their leverage. Manipulators twist compassion into obligation. They make you feel like saying no is unchristian, unkind, or unloving. They present every crisis as urgent, every inconvenience as your responsibility, and every boundary as betrayal. And if you are not careful, their emotional storm becomes your captivity. But Scripture shows us a different model. In the Gospel of Luke, when the crowds tried to pressure Jesus to stay, he walked away, not out of coldness, but out of purpose. Jesus refused to be controlled by demands, emotions, or expectations, even when those demands came from people who claimed to need him. This teaches us something powerful. Love is not control, and giving in to manipulation is not ministry. If helping someone consistently drains your peace, silences your discernment, or forces you to abandon your purpose, then your help is no longer help at all. It's bondage disguised as kindness. Healthy love has boundaries. True compassion includes wisdom. The divisive. Those who, gossips, drama spreaders, and unity breakers. One of the most underestimated dangers in the Christian life is the divisive person. They are not always malicious in appearance. Sometimes they come off as concerned, wounded, or simply sharing what they heard. But Scripture makes it clear. A person who spreads conflict, gossip, or hidden drama is not harmless. They are spiritually destructive. Proverbs tells us that a gossip separates close friends. Think about that. Words alone can break what took years to build. And Titus instructs believers to warn a divisive person once, then warn them again, and if they refuse correction, to have nothing to do with them. Why such strong language? Because division spreads quietly. But once it enters a church, a family, or a friendship, it begins to poison everything. Gossip does not simply inform, it infects. It stirs suspicion, breeds bitterness, and ruins reputations. And here's the dangerous part. The divisive person rarely carries the consequences of their own chaos. They drop seeds of destruction and walk away. But the people who listened become entangled in the fallout. When you help a divisive person by listening, sharing, or staying neutral, their conflict becomes your consequence. You carry stress they created, fight battles they started, and lose peace over problems that were never yours. God calls us to unity, not entanglement. Sometimes the holiest thing you can say is, "I will not carry this conversation." The drainer. Those who take without transformation. There are people you pour into endlessly, yet nothing in their life ever changes. You pray for them, support them, and carry their emotional weight. But the moment you pause, everything falls apart. These individuals are not seeking growth. They are seeking a constant source of strength. This is the drainer, someone who gladly receives your time and energy, but has no intention of standing on their own. At first, helping feels noble, but slowly, your joy shrinks, your clarity fades, and your spirit grows tired. Even Jesus had boundaries. He often withdrew to rest and pray because constant giving without renewal leads to burnout. And a burned-out believer loses discernment. Helping someone becomes harmful when it empties you and enables them to stay the same. Love without wisdom becomes self-destruction. Boundaries do not make you unkind. They make you spiritually wise. The false teacher, those who spread twisted doctrine. In today's world, false teaching does not only come from a pulpit. It lives on social media, in short clips, in polished speeches, and even in messages that sound inspiring but quietly twist the truth. This makes false teachers one of the most subtle but dangerous groups God warns us not to support. The Apostle John writes something startling. If someone comes to you teaching a different doctrine, do not welcome them or even give them a platform, because whoever supports them shares in their work. That is a serious warning. It means that liking, sharing, defending, or promoting a message that distorts Scripture can spiritually mislead others, even if your intentions are good. False teaching is powerful because it often contains just enough truth to sound trustworthy. It appeals to emotions, promises shortcuts, feeds pride, or offers a version of God that aligns with culture but not with Scripture. It tells people what they want to hear, not what they need to hear. And here is the danger. When you help spread a message that points people away from Christ, you are not helping a person. You are helping a deception. God calls us to test everything, to compare every message to Scripture, and to protect our hearts from spiritual confusion. Discernment is not judgment. It is protection. The oppressor and abuser, those who use power to harm. God's heart has always been clear. He stands with the oppressed, the wounded, and the mistreated. Scripture is fierce in its language toward anyone who uses power, authority, or influence to harm others. Whether the abuse is emotional, spiritual, financial, or physical, the Bible does not minimize it, and neither should we. In the book of Isaiah, God thunders against leaders who create unjust systems and crush those who are already burdened. In the book of Micah, he condemns those who tear the skin from my people, painting a vivid picture of what oppression feels like to the soul. These passages are not gentle. They reveal how deeply God cares for those who are suffering and how strongly he confronts those who cause that suffering. But here is where many believers struggle. When the oppressor is someone we love, someone respected, or someone in a position of authority, we often feel pressured to defend them, excuse their actions, or maintain peace. But peace that protects abuse is not peace. It is complicity. Helping an oppressor stay in power does not heal anyone. In fact, it places you opposite the very God who delivers captives and comforts the broken. When you shield someone who misuses their strength, you are not keeping the peace. You are standing in the way of justice and healing. God calls us to stand with the wounded, not the ones who wound them. The rejecter of wisdom, the biblical fool. The biblical fool is not defined by intelligence, but by attitude. It is the person who hears truth and rejects it, who mocks correction, and who turns honest conversations into exhausting arguments. No matter how carefully you speak, they twist your words or dismiss them. Proverbs warns us not to answer a fool according to their folly, meaning, do not let them drag you into their chaos. Yet it also says to answer them so they do not think they are right. The meaning is simple. You cannot win with someone who refuses wisdom. Jesus echoed this when he said, not to cast your pearls before those who will trample them. Some people are not looking for truth. They are looking for a debate. Continuing to pour your emotional or spiritual energy into someone who despises wisdom does not lead them toward God. It only drains you. Sometimes walking away is not rejection. It is discernment. The greedy exploiter, those who use others for gain. Greed is more than a desire for success. It is a relentless hunger that uses people as tools. The greedy exploiter sees relationships as opportunities and others' kindness as fuel for their own ambitions. Scripture warns that those eager for quick gain will ultimately face loss, and Jesus cautions that life is not measured by possessions. The danger in helping a greedy person is clear. They will always take more than you can give. When you lend them resources, they come back for more. When you forgive them, they repeat the same behavior. Their appetite grows, but their gratitude never does. Helping someone driven by greed does not rescue them. It empowers their exploitation. It drains your peace while feeding their appetite for more. True generosity requires discernment. Loving someone does not mean enabling their destructive desires. Sometimes the kindest boundary is simply saying, "No more." When you stop pouring your strength into the wrong people, you make room for the right relationships, the right growth, and the right assignments. Some blessings only come after release. Some breakthroughs only appear after obedience, and it aligns you with God's will. So take a moment and reflect on this. Who am I helping in a way that actually hurts me, hurts them, or pulls me out of God's will? Sometimes the next chapter of your life begins with one honest boundary. Type "let them go" in the comments as a declaration of obedience and clarity. And if you're ready for the next step in your spiritual growth, watch the next video on your screen. Your freedom starts with wisdom, and your wisdom starts with letting go.